Oi, tudo bem? Eu me chamo Tamara, and this is my week 2 update for Brazilian Portuguese. So I've decided that for these videos, I want to make them useful for you guys. So what I'm going to do is feature a different resource that I'm using every week as I give an update and give you a little bit of an informal review. That way, if you're learning Portuguese or thinking about learning Portuguese, and you've come across some of these resources and you're not sure whether or not you want to give them a try, I'll try to give you a little bit of insight into that as I record these videos. Also, I'm obviously going to say something in Portuguese, whatever I can from what I learned this week. So I appreciate any feedback from any speakers of Portuguese. Of course, I know I'm going to make mistakes. I'm a super beginner. So whatever feedback, corrections, guidance you could provide, that is awesome and that is definitely welcome. So for this week, I want to talk a little bit about my progress. So I had a little bit of a setback. So I have a son, he's in preschool, and he got sick this week, which means that I got sick. So I ended up with this nasty stomach bug for a couple of days, taking care of him and then taking care of myself. So I really slacked off a little bit. For most of the week, I was able to listen to Pimsleur, but once he got sick and then I did, that really went out the window. So I really have now just been getting back on track, and what I'm doing is repeating some of those lessons. So I was up to about unit 9 or 10 right now. So I'm just kind of repeating those again to get myself back on track. Since I was sick, one thing that really came in handy was I mentioned last week, I put a hold on a free copy of the Earworms brain trainer, musical brain trainer for Brazilian Portuguese. So I was able to pick that up from the library before I was bedridden. So here it is. This is my Brazilian Portuguese Earworms musical brain trainer. And this has really helped me a lot because while I was sick, the little bit of Portuguese exposure I did get was from Earworms. And basically what Earworms is it gives you different phrases in Portuguese and it repeats those phrases over and over in sort of to a musical track in the background. So it's all set to an instrumental, but it's a conversation with a native speaker of Portuguese and someone who's a native English speaker that's learning Portuguese. So she sort of goes through different phrases with him and he makes observations about different patterns he notices or similarities or differences to English. But the main thing I like about it is they'll give you a full phrase and then break it down into smaller parts. So you'll start out with hearing the full sentence and then they'll give you each word at a time. And if it's a longer word, they'll break down each section so that you get to hear those sounds. And then they'll repeat it with the definition again in English. So it's really catchy. I've found that it gives me useful phrases. The one downside is that I can't really pick what's coming up next. And unless I look at the phrase book in advance, I really don't know what's in the next track. So I'm just kind of listening. But I will say that every phrase I've heard has been pretty useful. I do think that they've made good selection in terms of vocabulary, different verbs, different phrases that you actually might need. And again, it's geared towards someone just learning Portuguese if you're going to be traveling, going to restaurants, basic sort of things like that. I really have enjoyed using Earworms just because it's not as demanding as a program like Pimsleur or Rocket Portuguese where I have to repeat. I can just sort of listen along and just let the track play. Even while I'm working, I can kind of listen and just kind of let it play in the background. Well, I mentioned that I had this setback and that I was sick. So really I didn't get a lot of Portuguese exposure. But the one thing that I did do is I booked my plane tickets for Brazil. So the one thing that I will say in Portuguese, I'll try to say this, is eu vou ao Brasil. Eu tenho amigo que vai e eu vou, my Spanish is coming in, eu vou com ele. Okay, so I have a friend that's going to Brazil, so I'm going to be going with my friend, and it should be a lot of fun. I even found a really great school to take some Portuguese classes while I'm there. So really excited. So that's one thing that did kind of motivate me, even though I didn't get a whole lot of new Portuguese in this week. I had also planned this week to have my first session with my italki tutor, and it did not happen because I just wasn't feeling well enough, so I had to reschedule. So Good news is that will be happening next week. I'm really excited. It'll give me a chance to test out what I've been learning with Pimsleur with an actual person and to get to learn a little bit more Portuguese. So I have 2 sessions actually scheduled for next week. So I'm really excited to test out my new Portuguese and to learn a little bit more in italki. So that's it for week 2. I'll be checking in again next week to give you my progress and let you know how my first tutoring session went on italki. Até logo!